The silence of God is not the end. It's just a comma in your story. Rain sounds. Have you ever felt like everything just stopped? As if your life were completely frozen in time, like someone pressed the pause button on a machine that was supposed to run perfectly, and now you're stuck there, waiting for someone to come back and hit play again. As if God were in absolute, complete, deafening silence. Maybe you're living that exact moment right now. Maybe you woke up this morning with that heavy feeling in your chest, that painful certainty that your prayers are hitting the ceiling of your room and bouncing straight back to your heart without ever reaching their destination. That your tears are falling into an infinite void where there's no one to see them or wipe them away. That your most desperate pleas are being sent to an address that no longer exists, or worse, to someone who moved without telling you and now doesn't answer your mail anymore. If that's the case, if this description made your chest tighten in painful recognition, then this story is especially for you. For you who are tired of waiting. For you who are confused about where God has gone. For you who have checked your spiritual inbox 1,000 times today, looking for an answer that never arrives. Because there is a very specific, very particular kind of pain in the silence of God. A pain that only those who've been through it can fully understand. It's different from any other kind of pain life can bring us. It's different from the pain of losing someone, because at least then you know that person can't respond anymore. It's different from the pain of being rejected by someone, because at least then you know the rejection was a conscious choice. But the pain of God's silence is the pain of feeling abandoned exactly by the one you need most, precisely at the moment you need him the most. It's the pain of screaming for help with all you've got and hearing only your own voice echoing back in an empty space. It's the pain of discovering that the direct line you thought you had to heaven suddenly has a busy tone, or worse, says the number doesn't exist. It's the pain of looking up at the sky you always considered your home and seeing only sky. Just blue, just clouds, just an infinite expanse that seems totally indifferent to your suffering. It's the pain of seeking divine signs in every coincidence, every repeating number, every song that plays at just the right time, and realizing maybe that's all it was, a coincidence. It's the pain of expecting miracles with childlike faith, but only getting more questions without answers, more mysteries without solutions, more silence where there should be revelation. It's the pain of discovering that the faith you always considered your safest anchor, the thing that kept you steady when everything around you was shaking, suddenly seems to have broken loose from the seafloor and is drifting right along with you in the storm. You pray. You pray like you've never prayed before in your life, with an intensity that comes from pure desperation, with words torn from the deepest part of your chest, the place where the pain lives that you didn't even know existed. You pray in the morning, when you wake up, and the first thing you feel is that gigantic weight on your chest, as if someone placed a stone there overnight and forgot to mention it would now be permanently installed. You pray throughout the day, when everyone around you continues their normal lives, laughing at jokes, worrying about problems that seem so small compared to the emptiness you carry inside, and you feel like an actress playing the role of someone who's fine, when in reality you're completely lost in the script of your own life. You pray in the late afternoon, when the sun starts to set and you realize another day has gone by with no answer, no sign, no relief. You pray while washing dishes, while driving to work, while waiting in line at the bank, turning every ordinary moment into a moment of silent pleading, as if you might catch God off guard at some random moment and finally get his attention. You pray at night, when you're finally alone with God in the quiet of your room and can take off all the masks. You can be completely honest about the fear growing inside you like a tumor, about the anger that sometimes appears out of nowhere, surprising even you. How is it possible to feel anger toward God? About the confusion that overtakes your mind when you try to find a logical explanation for what's happening. You wait. You wait like someone waiting for a bus that's really late, constantly looking in the direction it should be coming from, believing at any moment it will appear on the horizon, carrying the solution, the answer, the relief you need so badly, and that should have arrived long ago. You wait like someone awaiting a call with medical test results, phone always nearby, volume cranked up, obsessively checking to make sure you haven't missed a call, haven't missed a message, that your battery didn't die the exact moment God tried to contact you. You wait like someone hoping for news about a loved one in a delicate surgery, with that kind of anxiety that makes time pass in strange ways. Sometimes really slow, sometimes really fast, but always wrong, always out of sync with your heart that wants answers now, right now, no more delay. You try. You try every way you know, and some you invent in your desperation, like someone who's drowning and would do anything to breathe again. You try fasting more, believing maybe God is waiting for you to prove you really mean business, that you truly need him, that you're willing to give things up to get his attention. You try praying more, waking up earlier, going to bed later, turning every free moment into an opportunity to talk to him, as if the sheer amount of words could make up for the apparent lack of connection, as if you could impress him with your dedication and persistence. You try praising more, playing gospel music in the car, singing hymns in the shower, lifting your hands in church services, even when you don't feel anything, hoping maybe a posture of worship could summon his presence, like some magic formula. You just haven't figured out how to perform correctly yet. You try serving more, volunteering in more ministries at church, helping more people, being kinder to everyone around you, as if you could rack up points on a spiritual loyalty card that would eventually entitle you to a priority response from God. You try to be a better person, holier, more worthy of divine attention, as if the problem lies with you, as if there might be something in your life, some hidden sin, some unyielded area that's blocking your communication with him. You try bargaining with God, promising radical changes in your life, offering sacrifices that go way beyond what's reasonable, negotiating as if faith were a commercial contract where you have to offer something of value in exchange for what you want to buy. In this case, his presence, his voice, his answer. Yet heaven remains in that deafening silence that's far worse than any shout or complaint or any no he could give, because at least a no would be an answer. At least a wait a bit longer would be some form of communication. But silence says nothing, and at the same time, it seems to say everything. It seems like absolutely nothing happens when you speak to him, as if your words dissolve in the air before they even leave your mouth, as if there's an invisible barrier between you and heaven that filters out your prayers and decides that none of them are important enough to reach their final destination. No doors open when you push with all your might, when you try all the prayer tricks you've learned, when you use all the formulas pastors taught about how to get quick answers from God. The doors stay closed, as if they don't even know you're on the other side desperately knocking. No window opens when you knock asking for a way out, an alternative, at least a different view of the situation you're in. The windows stay shut and the curtains drawn, not letting you see anything happening inside God's house. No word comes through the channels you've always used to hear God's voice. The Bible, which was always your source of guidance, suddenly seems like just another book, full of ancient stories that are beautiful, but don't speak directly to your specific, current, urgent situation. It's as if you're reading about the lives of people who lived on another planet, in another dimension, at a time when God still spoke to humans, but now, for some reason you can't grasp, has decided to stop, at least with you. The songs that used to move your heart and bring clear messages from God now sound empty, as if they were written for other people with completely different realities. People who still have direct access to heaven, who can still feel the divine presence, who still receive answers to their prayers. You listen to the lyrics and think, good for whoever wrote this. Good for those who can feel this. But where's my miracle? Where's my answer? Where's my supernatural experience? And instead of comforting you, the songs start to hurt, because they talk about a God who seems available to everyone but you. The sermons you hear in church seem aimed at issues that aren't exactly yours, at people who still have enough hope to believe things will get better, at situations that still have a visible solution on the horizon. And there you are, sitting in the middle of a crowd that responds amen and hallelujah at the right moments, feeling completely alone and out of place. It's like being at a party where everyone's having fun, and you're the only one who doesn't get the joke, doesn't know the songs, doesn't know anyone there. Everyone seems to have a connection with God that you lost, or maybe never truly had, and you don't know if it's your fault or if you've suddenly become invisible to Him. And so, in this desert of silence that seems to stretch infinitely in every direction, with no oasis in sight, no shade to rest in, no water to drink, there arises that terrible thought, that question you're afraid even to fully form, because voicing it might make it too real. Could it be that this story ended here? Is this really the ending God wrote for you? Did you do something so offensive, so irreparable, that He decided to permanently cut off communication, like someone blocking your number and refusing to pick up ever again? Is your situation so special, so unique in the universe, so complicated and confusing that not even God, with all His infinite wisdom, knows how to resolve it? Have you managed the impossible feat of creating a problem that's beyond divine ability? Could it be that you misunderstood from the start how your relationship with God is supposed to work, and that there was never really a true connection between the two of you? Could it be that all those past experiences, those moments you were sure you felt His presence, those prayers that seemed to be answered so clearly, were just coincidences you interpreted romantically and naively? Could it be you're one of those people who just doesn't have access to the supernatural, who for some inexplicable reason got left off the list of people God regularly communicates with? Is there a limited quota of miracles and divine attention in the world, and you just didn't qualify for your share? But here's a truth that can completely change how you see this moment of your life. What feels like a period is sometimes just a comma. And that difference, though it looks small on paper, is absolutely enormous when you apply it to real life. A period ends a sentence for good, concluding it with no possibility of return. It states with authority that there's nothing more to be said, done, or expected. It's the end. Over. No more story to tell. But a comma. Oh, a comma is totally different. A comma pauses temporarily, takes a deep breath, gathers momentum, carefully prepares to continue with even more strength, more clarity, and more purpose than before. A comma doesn't end the sentence. It simply creates a strategic space, a suspenseful moment, so that the sentence can go on in an even more impactful and meaningful way. It's the difference between "it's over for good" and "to be continued soon," between the end of the story and the end of the first act, between dead and sleeping. The difference is everything. The difference is hope versus despair. The difference is having a future versus facing emptiness. Because God writes in a completely different way than we do. We, impatient and anxious human beings, write quick notes, urgent WhatsApp messages, sticky note reminders meant to be understood immediately and then tossed. We want direct communication, no beating around the bush. We want fast answers that arrive on the timelines we unilaterally establish. We're always rushed. Our attention is limited and scattered. Our patience has a very short expiration date. We live in an age of instant gratification, where everything has to happen now, where 5 minutes of waiting already makes us irritated, where a single day without an answer makes us wonder if the other person still cares about us. But God doesn't operate within our human deadlines. He's not writing a quick note that you'll read once, barely comprehend, and toss aside 5 minutes later. He's not sending a casual text message that needs a reply within minutes to keep the conversation going. He's writing an eternal book, a book you'll read and reread thousands of times throughout your life, a book that you and people you don't even know yet will study and meditate on. A book that will influence not only your generation, but many generations to come. In this book, every word is chosen with surgical care. Every pause has a specific purpose, intentionally planned. Every chapter is so carefully structured that nothing, absolutely nothing, is wasted or accidental. It's a book where even the silent moments, even the pages that seem blank, even the chapters that appear to lead nowhere, are essential to the greater narrative being crafted with a precision only an infinitely wise author could achieve. And every great book, every literary masterpiece has strategic pauses. It has commas placed exactly where they need to be, making the reader stop, take a breath, reflect on what was just said, and fully absorb its meaning before moving on to the next revelation. There are moments in the story when it seems the main character is standing completely still, where the action slows dramatically, almost frustrating the anxious reader. But these moments aren't flaws in the story, not editing mistakes, not signs that the author has lost inspiration. They're absolutely essential elements of the narrative. They're the moments where the real transformation takes place, where character is developed, where depth is built, where the emotional and spiritual foundation is laid so firmly that it can support all the adventures, challenges, and miracles that lie ahead. Because it's exactly in these moments of pause that the character develops internally in the most significant ways. It's in the silence, away from the spotlight and visible action, that the deepest and most enduring transformations occur. It's in forced stillness that we build the emotional and spiritual base that will uphold not just the next chapters, but the entire sequel of the story. Right now, you may be living that moment, this divine comma in your story with God, this carefully orchestrated space between one answer and the next, between one miracle and another, between one season of obvious closeness and the next season of even deeper intimacy with Him. And maybe that space has lasted much longer than you expected when all this began, much longer than you mentally planned as a reasonable time. much longer than you honestly believe you can endure without completely breaking. But commas, by grammatical definition and by their very nature, are temporary. They exist to organize and give rhythm to the sentence, not to end it prematurely. They exist to create pause and reflection, not final termination. They exist specifically to prepare and enhance what comes next, not to cancel or prevent what's coming. During this wait that feels endless, God is aligning things you still can't see from where you stand, like an experienced film director who needs to coordinate hundreds of elements: actors, costumes, lighting, sound, set, before he can shout, "Action!" and begin filming the most important scene. He's organizing complex circumstances, preparing specific people, adjusting perfect timing, removing obstacles you didn't even know existed. He's working on hearts that need to be gently softened before they can positively be part of your story. He's opening doors that were still under construction and needed reinforcing to support the weight of the blessing that will pass through them. He's preparing blessings that require a strong, well-established foundation to sustain them properly. He's creating opportunities that depend on a very specific context to exist in the right way. Opportunities that wouldn't make sense if they arrived too soon, at the wrong time, without the proper setup. He's connecting people who need to meet at the exact right moment, removing people who need to exit the stage before the next phase begins, moving pieces on life's chessboard in a way that will only make complete sense when you can see the whole picture from a higher vantage point. During this pause that seems cruel, but is actually merciful, he's also working intensely in you. He's gently breaking down the pride that would sabotage and destroy the blessing he's specifically preparing for you. He's strengthening spiritual roots that need to be deep enough to support the majestic tree you will become. He's gradually expanding your capacity for faith so you can properly carry the weight of glory he wants to place on your shoulders without being crushed or thrown off balance. He's increasing your emotional and spiritual endurance so you can handle the responsibilities that always accompany great blessings. He's carefully removing limited expectations that would restrict and diminish the miracle he has in mind for you. He's healing old, deep wounds that would contaminate and poison the new relationships that are being prepared. He's teaching you specific lessons that you'll need to know by heart to wisely navigate the uncharted waters ahead. He's developing spiritual muscles you didn't know you needed, muscles that will be absolutely essential to gracefully and humbly carry the responsibilities that invariably come with significant blessings from God. You are not standing still, even when you feel completely stagnant, even when each day seems exactly like the one before, even when you look in the mirror and think you haven't grown at all. You're being strategically repositioned, like a valuable chess piece that needs to be placed in a specific spot before it can take part in the next decisive move. You're being set exactly where you need to be so that the next chapter of your story makes perfect sense and has maximum impact. You haven't been forgotten, abandoned, or set aside, even if you feel completely invisible to God and the world. You're living the very chapter that's forming, preparing, and giving birth to the next miracle in your life. Like a masterful musician who makes that dramatic, perfectly timed pause just before the most exciting climax of the symphony, God is creating divine suspense, building spiritual tension, preparing the exact perfect moment for the triumphant entrance that will be exponentially more powerful and memorable precisely because of the silence that preceded it. Because, and this is a truth you can verify throughout all human history, the most powerful and transformative miracles are often born from the deepest, most desperate silences, the most glorious and celebrated resurrections emerge directly from the most painful and definitive deaths. The most resounding and inspiring victories invariably come from the hardest, most draining battles. And the most moving and influential stories always include those dark chapters where everything seemed utterly lost, where hope seemed to have died and been buried, where even God seemed to have given up on the main character. Remember Jesus' story on that middle Saturday, the seemingly ordinary day between the traumatic Friday of the crucifixion and the glorious Sunday of the resurrection. That specific day when the disciples woke up in the morning and he was still dead in the tomb. That day when Mary Magdalene woke up with eyes swollen from crying so much and the tomb was still sealed, cold, final. That day when Peter woke up carrying the unbearable guilt of his denial and hope remained buried with the body of the Master he had promised never to abandon. There was absolute, complete silence on that Saturday. Silence from God, who spoke no word of comfort. Silence from heaven, which sent no angel with a message of hope. Silence from hope itself, which seemed to have died along with Jesus on the cross. The angels didn't sing that day. There were no miracles. The desperate prayers of Jesus' followers seemed to ricochet off the walls of a heaven completely closed and deaf. It was literally a day of apparent punctuation, a day that screamed, "It's over," a day that felt like the end of the story. All visible evidence, every concrete fact, all human logic pointed to a single, inescapable conclusion. It was over. Jesus was dead. The movement had been crushed. The dreams were destroyed. God had lost. Evil had won. Period. But God had never stopped working, not for a single second. He had never halted his plans, not even in that apparent defeat. Even in the most deafening silence, even in the most painful absence, even in the darkest, most desperate night, he was meticulously orchestrating the greatest miracle in all human history. He was preparing a resurrection that wouldn't just change the course of eternity, but would redefine completely what's possible, what's expected, what's imaginable. He was preparing a victory so complete and final that every previous defeat would seem insignificant. Silence was not God's abandonment. It was divine preparation. The tomb was not the end of the story. It was a womb where something entirely new was being conceived. Death wasn't a final defeat. It was the seed planted in dark soil to produce abundant life. And Saturday wasn't the story's last chapter. It was simply the most dramatic, suspenseful, cinematic comma in the whole narrative, creating perfect tension for the most glorious, most impossible, most transformative revelation, scheduled to happen exactly at the right moment. You might be living your own middle Saturday right now, in a specific chapter of your life where it seems absolutely everything has ended, where all the visible and tangible evidence suggests there's nothing more to do, where even your deepest faith seems to be buried along with your dearest dreams. A moment where God appears to be as dead, as absent, as defeated as Jesus seemed in that cold tomb 2,000 years ago, where you look around and only see evidence of endings, of defeat, of impossibility, of never again. But listen with your whole heart. It's not over. It never ends when God is truly in the story. He's the absolute expert in impossible resurrections, in miraculous new beginnings, in turning what looked like definite periods into powerful introductions for chapters more glorious than you can possibly imagine in your wildest dreams. He's the God who speaks through silence as clearly as through the most eloquent words, who works just as effectively in the invisible as in the visible, who's just as present and active in the pause as in the most dramatic action, who's building your story just as intentionally in the moments when he seems infinitely distant as in the moments when his presence is almost tangible. This specific comma you're experiencing right now is not punishment for something you did wrong. It's not abandonment because he lost interest in you. It's not proof that you committed some unforgivable sin or that he decided to give up on you. It's pure divine strategy. It's perfect timing from someone who sees the entire picture while you only see a small piece. It's love so deep and so wise that it's willing to be misunderstood in the present so it can be fully understood and appreciated in the future. It's the sacred space where God takes a deep breath before continuing his masterpiece in you and through you. Like a brilliant artist who stops painting, not because he's lost inspiration or passion for the project, but because he needs the paint to dry completely before applying the next layer that will make all the difference. He pauses, not because he's lost interest, but because he wants the final result to be absolutely perfect. Like a talented writer who stops writing temporarily, not because he has nothing more to say, but because he wants to choose precisely the right words, in exactly the right tone, at just the right time, to perfectly express what's in his heart. He's silent, not because he has no more for you, but because he wants the next word to be exactly what you need to hear. Like an experienced conductor who pauses the entire orchestra, not because the music is over or he's lost the beat, but because he wants the next movement to have the greatest possible emotional impact. He creates silence, not because his symphony is finished, but because he wants the next movement to be even more beautiful, moving, and life-changing than you ever expected. So rest, dear one. Rest in the security of knowing you're still in the most important story ever written. Rest knowing that the most talented author in the universe has neither lost interest nor inspiration in the book he's writing just for you. Rest assured that commas, no matter how long they feel, when you're living through them, always come before continuations, even more meaningful than what came before. Rest knowing that God is still fully God, even when he seems absent, that he is still infinitely good, even when life appears overwhelmingly bad, that he still has specific, wonderful plans for you, even when you can't see any plan on the horizon, that he still loves you unconditionally and passionately, even when you can't feel that love. Rest knowing this silence is not the definitive end of the most important conversation in your life, but simply a strategic pause in it. That this pause is not rejection or abandonment, but careful, loving preparation. That this preparation is not punishment or discipline, but parental care of the highest order, and that this care is building something in you and for you that will be fully worth all the waiting, all the anxiety, all the confusion, all the moments of doubt you're going through right now. You are completely alive, even when you feel emotionally dead inside, when everything around you seems to have lost its color and sparkle, when your hope seems to have slipped into deep hibernation. You're alive, and as long as there is life, your story is actively being written. You are in waiting, but not a hollow, pointless, wasted, or purposeless wait. You're in a pregnant wait, full of infinite possibilities, rich in divine purpose, abundant in invisible preparation, a wait that is generating something that simply couldn't be created any other way, under any other circumstances. And God God is still the exclusive author of your story. He hasn't handed the pen to someone less qualified. He hasn't outsourced your story to a lesser or uninspired writer. He hasn't lost interest in the book. He started writing the moment you were born and took your first breath. He remains the only one with absolute authority, infinite wisdom, and unconditional love to write the next chapters of your life in a way that's perfect for you. And when he writes, when he really picks up the pen, he writes masterpieces only. Stories that make other people desperately want to know the author. Narratives that inspire, encourage, and transform lives. Books that are read and reread, that leave a permanent mark, that make an eternal difference. Your story isn't over, dear one. This comma will end at just the right time. This silence will be broken in the most beautiful way. This pause will give way to the most wonderful continuation you've ever experienced. And when that happens, you'll finally understand that even the silence was an essential part of the music, that even the comma was part of the perfect sentence he was composing with surgical care and infinite love. Until then, keep breathing, keep going, keep trusting, even when trust makes no logical sense. Keep waiting, even when the wait seems to have no end in sight. Keep believing there's a greater, higher, more beautiful purpose being worked out, even when you can't see any purpose in the present moment, because you're still in the most important story. And God, He's still the author of that story. And every good author knows the best stories always include moments of silence that make the next words sound even more powerful, more meaningful, more transformative when they finally come. Your comma will end. Your story will continue gloriously. And when that happens, you'll see that not for a single second were you absent from his passionate heart. And if this message touched something deep inside you, if you felt that somehow this video put into words what your heart has been silently screaming for ages, then don't keep this to yourself. Write in the comments. Which part spoke to you the most? Which phrase felt like a hug for your soul? I truly read everything, and I want to walk with you on this journey. And if you know someone else who's also facing God's silence, share this video with them. Maybe their comma is also paving the way for a new chapter in their story. Subscribe to the channel and turn on the notifications, because here we'll keep talking about these divine pauses, the backstage of the invisible, and the chapters yet to come. You are not alone. Let's cross this silence together. And when the next word comes, you'll be ready to hear it. God is still writing, and the best part of the book is yet to come.